Hey guys, here we are, the Quiggin Out MMA Podcast, episode 31, and I'm not only joined by the 21st century John L. Sullivan, who you've become accustomed to seeing on the show, but we've got the bad boy himself, Leonard Garcia. How we doing, gentlemen?
Doing fantastic. Doing fantastic.
Wow, so glad to hear that. So for anybody who hasn't been seeing the social media posts or anything else, the reason both of you are on the show, and ironically enough, both training in the same division, fighting in the same division, is you're actually have been helping Leonard prepare for his fight against Joe Elmore. So I want to talk about, like, how did that come up, and how was it for you? We'll start with you, Tom, because Leonard, you already told me, but I'm going to have you tell it again. But what was it like for you to reach out and want to prepare somebody in your division for a fight against somebody you just fought?
Well, I mean, I guess the best thing to do is start at the beginning. I fought Joe at 165 pounds, and I think that myself, along with the majority of people who saw that fight, thought that I had won the fight. I just didn't have the size behind me to really put the finishing touches on Joe. But as far as a boxing performance is concerned, I outboxed him. And that's pretty standard across the board. Moral of the story is I lost that fight. Joe won that fight. He had a tough performance. He proved that he was the man at 165 pounds. And in the process of doing that, he decided to call out Leonard. Well, I was watching the Knucklemania, and I saw that it was posted, it was official that they were fighting. So I reached out to Leonard that night. I said, hey, man, I got a lot of experience with him. I spent 5 rounds with this guy. Like, if you need anything, let me know. Turns out he had been thinking about inviting me down prior to this, but I had hurt my knee. Mm-hmm. So he didn't want to be that guy to reach out and be like, hey, like, I know you're hurt, but so it just happened to work out, that my knee was healing up and I was in a good position to be able to come down and move around with him. And he wanted the help. He was more than accepting of the offer. And I was down the next week. I spent a week down there the first time, came home for about 10 days, and then spent another week down there the second time. And it was excellent. It was a blessing. It was an amazing experience for me personally to go down there and be able to work with a guy like Leonard and get his insight and get his knowledge, but also be able to offer my own insight and my own knowledge, and be able to pass that along, so to speak. So it was a great experience for me. Like I said, I couldn't have asked for anything better. It was excellent, and I'm really excited for Friday night because he's going to go out and he's going to put on a stellar performance against Joe, man. I have no doubt in my mind Joe is training his ass off for this fight, and I really don't think it's going to be enough. So,
well, and I was there for your fight against Joe, and take away the knockdowns, and I realize that's part of the sport, but take away the knockdowns, and you did. And I told Leonard right before we started, I said, if you just showed your faces at the end of that fight, didn't let them watch the fight and go, who won the fight, nobody would pick Joe. Nobody.
No.
Agreed. And I still remember that being so difficult. I think it was the last knockdown, and you slammed the mat with your hand, and it was just like, I felt it. And I was just like, damn, that hurt. Like, so.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it is what it is. But it was, you never learn anything from a win. And if I would have won that fight, I probably would have stayed at 165 pounds. And who knows, maybe it would have been me against Leonard, and we wouldn't have developed the relationship that we developed and the friendship that we developed. Moral of the story is I lost the fight because I'm too small for 165 pounds. Yeah. That's the long and the short of it. So it was a realization for me that, look, I need to be down in a proper weight class. I need to be down where I can actually compete and do well against these guys. Because, like, I fought Julian at 170 pounds, and I fought Joe at 165 pounds, and I fought Diego, who also knocked me out, at 165 pounds. So it's like, look, like maybe I need to start being in a proper weight class and stop fighting these monsters. So even though I lost, I've taken it in stride. It is what it is. I'm moving on. I'm doing bigger and better things in my proper weight class, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Which means no fight between you two. We're all good. We're all good.
Yeah.
I already see, man, that's never gonna happen, man. I can't fight family.
Exactly. Can't happen, man. We like each other way too much to be able to go out there and punch each other without gloves.
Yeah.
Well, and Leonard, talk about, you've been fighting, we talked about this. This is 22 years now. You don't see a lot of fighters still competing, after that amount of time, but you're starting to see it a little bit more in bare knuckle where guys, they were told, they retired from MMA, you being one of them. It's been 7 years since you had an MMA fight.
Yeah.
Why bare knuckle? Like, why is this your drive now, and why to keep going, other than the love of the sport?
So when in the UFC, we would go to the back in the day before, you pick your gloves, you try them on. They pack them for you, they roll them all up and they pack them, and they ask you, what size do you want? I was like, y'all have any extra small? They're like, Leonard, you got big hands, quit, you can't fit into an extra small. And I would always say, why do we wear gloves? Like, why do we wear gloves? And they were like, to protect your hand and to keep you from breaking your knuckles. And I was like, man, it's just unrealistic. It protects my hand and allows me to hit the guy harder. But I get that. But, I think it's pointless, man. Just let us go out there with no gloves. And I used to always say it in the back. If they let us go out there with no gloves on, I would sign up all day long. And if they didn't make us do kicks or takedowns, that would be fantastic. And then I retired from MMA. I'm sitting at my day job. And 9 o'clock at night, I get a phone call from New York. And I was like, who the hell is calling me from New York? And it's Dave Feldman, and he calls me. We talk for a little bit. He sends me a video of Bare Knuckle 1 with Tony and Beltran.
Mm-hmm.
And, I watched that fight, and I was like, immediately in my head was like, I got to do it. I got to do it. And then I hang up with him, and I start to think of everything I got to get past to get this done. So I'm like, my wife's definitely not going for this. You know what I mean? I was like, she's definitely not going to let me fight again. She was so happy when I retired. She's been through the ringer. And Dave was like, we're going to main event you against Julian Lane in Cancun, Mexico. And I was like, when is this? And he was like, it's 5 weeks away. I hadn't trained in 2.5 years.
Holy shit.
So it was 6 weeks away at the time. So I was like, Cancun, Julian Lane, 6 weeks. I'm like almost 200 pounds, 165. I think I can do it, So
typical fighter, like everything against you. Like, yeah, I can do that. We'll make it work.
So then I call her. I send her the video, and the first reply, very first thing she put was huge no. I don't even know how she made it that big, but like the text message, the whole screen just said no. And I was like, man. So that was on a Wednesday. So then Thursday, I'm talking to her. Friday, man, I'm like talking to her. Well, Saturday, Dave Feldman calls me back, and I verbally agree without her knowing, but it was just verbal. I hadn't signed anything. So he was sending my contract on Sunday. So, I had prayed a lot, man. I thought about it a lot, and I prayed, and I still had a desire to compete. I just didn't know where to find it at. And so we came back, we went to church, and we came back, and she was like, Cancun, huh? And I was, Cancun, Mexico, 6 weeks from now. And she was like, you haven't even trained. Like, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, I run every now and again, I do some stuff, and she was like, yeah.
But that's not training.
That's not training. She's being a realist. You know, she's just telling me, she was like, if you do this, you have to drop everything that we got going right now. You have to walk away from work, and you got to go train. That's the only way I'll agree to it. So she said that's the only way I'll agree to it. So I called my boss. I told him what was going on. He agreed to it, and I took off, man. I spent 5 weeks at the ranch. I got real ready, and then that fight happened. We went to Cancun. We had a great time. We won the fight. But then that was a great thing. Like, it was wonderful. It felt fantastic. Everything was good. I felt really, really good about it. But then Leonard's mind started working. And I thought to myself, I can continue to work and live a regular life, and then 5 weeks before every fight, I'm just going to go train like a madman, and I'm going to be ready. So
typical fighter,
I blew up
again.
to about 210 after the Julian fight, you know, because I had cut weight again. And when you cut weight, your body naturally wants to rebound higher. So I cut all the way down to 65, and then I blew up like a balloon back up to 210. And I get the call 6 weeks out for Jason Knight. So I said, okay. So I was like, well, now I'll go for an extra week. And some stuff happened. I was like, nah, 5 weeks is good. I'll get ready for Jason Knight in 5 weeks. 3 weeks later, Jason Knight hurt his rib, and they give me Jim Mallers. I had no idea who Jim Mallers was. I had nothing. I had never seen him fight. They send me a 30-second reel of him hitting with an uppercut, knocking him out. And they're like, he's a jiu-jitsu guy. He just landed a lucky punch. And I never got to see anything of him. So I was like, well, whatever. I got 5 weeks. Went to the ranch for 2 weeks and then decided, hell, I'm not going to kill myself. It's not that big of a deal. Came back home, brought a couple training partners down, and worked tentatively for about 3 weeks. And, you know, I cut all the way down to 55. So those last 3 weeks were dehydrating, not eating, suffering to make 55, which I hadn't made in like 7 years. And went out there, and Jim taught me a lesson, man. If you're fighting professionals, you got to be a professional. So Jim Mallers was the best thing that could have happened to me, other than Tom Shoaff. I regrouped. I addressed everything that was going on. You know, I had made a deal with my wife, and I was like, I've got to really focus on being ready. You know, I got to be ready when I get the call. I can't get ready. I need to be ready when the call comes. So we trained for about 9-10 months, just, you know, not full on training camp, but fixing things, working on things, you know, fixing things that I did wrong in the Ehlers fight. Of course, I was injured right out of the gate, man. He popped my eyeball real good. And, it was straight eyeball. There was no bone, nothing. Like, one of my pupils is dilated more than the other pupil due to that fight for the rest of my life.
Jeez.
I can attest to that. I've seen it.
Yeah. So
you're giving me flashbacks from yesterday, man. Oh.
Yeah. You know, and like the pokes in the eye, they're bad. You know, because it kind of scratches your eyeball. I had never felt my eyeball get squashed like that. Never. Thank God I didn't have a detached retina. Thank God the pressures in my eye stayed good.
Yeah.
A slight different pressure in one eye, but it's normal. When I'm fully hydrated, they're normal. Everything. I passed my eye exam. Not gonna go blind. Everything's good. It just you get injured, man. And so I fought like I was fighting my way out of a bad situation. And I tried to keep fighting. Kevin Smith, who's my manager now, he goes to the back and the doctor's like, wow, that was all eyeball. Like, when he looked at it, my eyeball was completely bloodshot red, the whole eye, everything. He was like, you got a hickey on your eyeball. I just want you to know that. And so Kevin Smith was like, what was going through your mind when you got hit? And I was like, the first thing that went through my mind was, what the hell was that? Like, what in the world is that? And then all of a sudden I'm getting punched in the head. So I was like, oh crap, I'm fighting. Like, I'm still in a fight. So, you know, when I went down the first time, I remember I grabbed my eyeball and it took me a second to realize, like, oh yeah, my eyeball's still there, you know? And then I was like, okay, it's still there. And I kind of thought about it for a second. I stand up, ref looks at me and he was like, man, your eye's bad. And I was like, yeah, it's good. And he was like, can you see? And I know if you say, I can't see, the fight's over.
Yeah.
And so all I wanted to do was hit Jim back. Like, that was it. Like, that was my whole goal was, you know what, Leonard, hit him back as hard as you can and level the playing field. Go back to your corner and figure it out. You know, cut it like Rocky did in Rocky 4 or whatever. Do whatever you got to do.
Cut me, Mick.
Yeah, cut me, Mick. And if Tom would have been there, he would have cut me.
He probably would have.
Bro,
so,
I got the razor right here.
You know, but you know, it was a great learning experience, man. A lot of people think when I tell that story, they're like, dude, you're crazy. You want to get in there again? And I was like, absolutely, man. Everything that I've been working on and everything since then has brought me to this fight. Having Shoaff come down and help me prepare and give me insight. There are no secrets to fighting. There's nothing that Tom can tell me that's going to guarantee me a victory. There's nothing that anybody. All we can do is work hard, look at our goal, and then go in there and execute our game plan. And you know, we're gonna go in there, man. We're gonna have a fantastic performance, and I have no doubt in my mind that we're gonna win this fight. Like, I don't see it going any other way. You know, things change and situations arise. I mean, I almost got my eye blown up the last time, but at the end of the day, we're ready for anything, man. So it's going to be, I'm just excited to get there, man. I wish it was this last Friday because I felt so good, but I feel fantastic now. And, man, you know, it's a great opponent. He's a tough guy. You know, he took some shots at Tom, so it's kind of, you know, it's to me, the reward is not only the work that we put in now, but the result.
And I mean, I'm blown away by that whole explanation, that whole entire story, because like you said, you know, you get hit square in the eyeball and you go, the hell was that? And your brain is like trying to process what that is, and then a few more punches are coming through and you're like, I don't have time to worry about that right now.
Yeah. I didn't have time to worry about the eye for sure, man. It was odd. It was you know, at the end of the day, it's an experience I'll remember for the rest of my life. And like I said, Jim Mailer's changed my my training regimen. He changed everything else. You know, I stayed on the road. I kept running. I kept doing things. I kept working. I kept learning. And you know, when Shoaff came down here, having another bare knuckle fighter helped me get ready for a bare knuckle fight. Man, the light bulb went off on my head. I was like, dude, me and you have to do this.
Yeah.
We have to get a group of guys together that are in bare knuckle or guys that are coming up and want to train bare knuckle so that they can fully understand. Because if you train at an MMA school, you know, a guy will land a kick on you. I'll throw a name out there, Cowboy.
Who's Cowboy? We don't who Cowboy who?
Yeah. We'll be sparring. You know, I'm getting ready for a bare knuckle fight. He laces me with a hell of a leg kick, and I'm like, "What the hell was that?" Like, dude, you can't kick. You're disqualified. You know. And he's like, "Oh, now." And then I'll get real close to a wrestler, and then he tries to shoot in on me. So it's like, you can't do that. But you know, when Tom was here, and we're working on things, it's like, okay. You know, we never have those hiccups. We never have that issue. So I think it's going to be a great thing for bare knuckle once this starts happening all around, you know, because guys are going to get better. I think having him here, those couple weeks that he was here, having him in my corner, listening for his voice and understanding his instruction. And I didn't say this. Tom didn't say this. Bare knuckle said this. Tom Shoaff has the best boxing style in bare knuckle today, right now. We didn't make that up. You know, me and Tom didn't just sit here and train it and, man, you're the greatest boxer in bare knuckle. They said it. Just like they're saying that Joe's number one, you know. So we have to go and take what they're saying and take those spots. You know what I mean? He has to proclaim himself as the best boxer style for bare knuckle, and I have to claim myself as the number one guy in the division at 165.
And I love that, because what you talked about, you know, with Cowboy and the leg kick, all I thought of was the Miles Jury fight when he was just like lining up and it was like
get out of his legs.
Ah!
Yeah, and Cowboy kicks, like, man, it's the most terrible feeling in the world to get a solid leg kick by, especially with no shin guards on.
Ooh.
You know, it's and especially when you're fully planted, ready to throw a punch, and he lands that sucker. I was like, oh, my leg was sore for about 4 days afterwards, and I was like, every time I'd touch it or rub it, I'd be like, God dang it, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to make a huge difference once, just like what Leonard was saying, once bare knuckle fighters actually start training together and going over bare knuckle game plan for bare knuckle fights, it's going to make a dramatic difference in the sport. You're going to see elevation and evolution in people's abilities and techniques, and just the potential of the sport is going to grow so much faster, because you're starting to build a community now. You know, for a long time we were just kind of a ragtag group of people sparsed out over the country, and every now and again you might see one or two people who can get together, but the majority of the times you're seeing guys who are doing training camps at boxing gyms or MMA gyms, things like that. You know, I think this might have been, with the exception of, I think Joe trained with Rusty Crowder and a couple other guys for a training camp in the past. You know, they've got a couple of guys who are working together in that sense, but you don't, moral of the story, you don't have very much of it. You don't have a lot of guys who are in the bare knuckle community who are getting together and training. And I think that once we see the benefits of it, when Leonard goes out there and not only puts on a stellar performance in comparison to his performance against Jim, he goes out there and puts on a stellar performance in comparison to his entire career, people are going to realize the benefits of what it means to start getting together with like-minded people and training for like-minded results. You know, it's going to be you're going to see a whole new transition in this sport once this starts to pick up. I can almost guarantee it.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's crazy to watch, though, because you see so many guys come from MMA. You know, I've watched, you know, as much, we talked about this, Tom, we've talked about this before, like, the first time I heard, like, a bare-knuckle fight, and I heard the fist crack on the skull, I was like, that's the worst sound I've ever heard in my life. That was absolutely the worst sound, and I love it. But I'm like, you see these MMA guys coming in, and they're going for a takedown. They're going for a leg kick. You know, they're trying to punch a guy when they're going down. And I feel like Tom's right. I think Thiago Alves said it after he fought Julian, and he said the hardest thing about this fight, and I know it wasn't disrespectful to Julian, but it kind of came across that way, was remembering not to throw a leg kick. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I guess so. Yeah. And so I think you're right. When you get like-minded people, you guys are going to get rid of that extra element. You know, like Leonard, you said getting kicked by a Cowboy or getting shot on by a wrestler. You're training with another bare-knuckle guy. He's not going to do any of that.
Absolutely. You know, I can remember when I fought Diego, the first and the second time, there were times where he ran into me and I would clinch him and I'd snap him to the side and like get ready to start bombing knees, and it's like, oh shit, like I can't do that, you know. Or when Chase Sherman fought Sam Schumacher, there's I think it was like the second or third round where he throws a jab and a lead hook, and then you see him load up on that right kick, and Sam kind of backs up and they both laugh and, you know, high five, like, my bad, you know, that type of situation. Or Phil Baroni when he fought Chris Lieben for Valor.
Oh,
double
God.
Jab shot, double jab shot. You know, like he just kept shooting in for double legs. So, you know, yeah, you see a lot of these MMA guys who are coming in, but they're coming in with the MMA mentality. Yeah. When you start getting guys who are like Leonard and I, who have that MMA background and that tough, gritty mentality, but then you take the minuscule rule changes and minute details of the striking as a whole, and everybody's implementing that game plan. It changes the dynamic of training, man.
Well, and Leonard
makes training.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No. It definitely makes training make a lot more sense. You know, like everything that we worked on was, you know, you can land a shot here, you can land a shot there, you can do this, you can do that, and it just makes so much sense when you hear it from somebody who's been in there, and because then you know, like, hey man, you've been in this position, you remember this here, you remember that there, and you go back into your memory bank, and it all fills in the slot so good, man, and those things, you know, I had brought a world champion boxer down for my first 2 training camps with Cowboy had him there at his training camp, and boxing is fantastic. Like, at the end of the day, it's bare-knuckle boxing. It really, you know, it is. But boxing gives you that false sense of security, you know, with the big gloves, and you know, you can touch somebody and understand range a little bit better. There's no better way to find range than your bare knuckles, you know what I mean? But we understand we have to get within position. We have to get with that out of that strike zone. We have to get in and then get out. Or if we stay in, we got to understand what the dangers are. And, you know, hearing Tom teach that, you can see where his style came from, because, I mean, like, one of the best teachers out there, man. I mean, he says something and it just clicks. Maybe it's because I have the ears for it, but man, it makes so much sense. And, you know, he also, you know, teaches other things, and you can see a sense of when a person wants to teach you and you have like he was saying, like-minded people, and we both believe in hard work. We both believe in, you know, everything else. But like he said, he took fights at 170, at 165. He got on the scale every day here and was 165. You know, even lighter on some days.
Lucky bastard.
Like, oh, yeah. So I was like, let's just trade. You stand on the scale for me when it's time for me to weigh in, and I'll just stay at 180.
Right. That's right.
Wow, Leonard looks a lot like Tom Shoaff. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. They went and trained together. He grew the mustache. And,
they
were cousins.
So. We're cousins for sure, man. You guys just not seeing it.
You know, it's just it like I said, man. Everything about this fight, everything about this fight camp has clicked. You know, I'm so, like, man, I'm fighting one of the scariest dudes at 165, ranked number 1 in the world, and I'm so happy, man. I'm so excited, because like he makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. You know what I mean? And when you can fight a guy that does that for you, I mean, respect to him as well. You know what I mean? He brings that element into the game. And, you know, at the end of the day, that's who you want to fight, man. You want to fight the guys that you have to worry about. You know, like I said, I knew nothing about Jim Ehlers. Jim Ehlers was the pizza guy delivering pizza to me. You know what I mean? Like, I had no idea who the dude was. I'm going to be cordial. I'm going to be friendly. And, you know, and I felt bad because I guess he had a run in the UFC, couple other things, but it never, I never had that fear. Then I get in there and he pops my eyeball, and I'm like, okay, now I know who this guy is. And that's not a good way to remember somebody, but I'm glad that it happened.
No, and it's probably the only situation where you're happy that something like that happened. Like, if you were walking down the street and some guy just punched you in the eye and walked away, you'd never be happy about that.
Like, yeah, not even kinda.
Yeah, not even a little bit. That's right.
You'd be like,
what
just happened? And you know, yeah. And you know, one of the things that Jim had, you know, a lot of notoriety behind him was he was supposed to fight Conor when Conor was still, I believe it was Cage Warriors over there, and like the fight fell through, and then, you know, there was a lot of stuff. There's a poster out there of the two of them where it was supposed to happen, and it just fell through. So Jim would always talk about that, and you know, it always got brought up in like people talk to him today, and they're still going to bring that up. So it's like people are so focused on that. But what I love about this is that, like, Leonard, you are one of the bad boys. Like, we say bad boy, but I'm like, you had 32 MMA fights. You never got knocked out. Not once. That is scary. Like, and for you to do bare knuckle, like you said, if we could do this without gloves, I'm in all day. So, like, do you wish that bare knuckle was around 10 years ago? And do you think you would have changed it, or do you think that it just came around at the right time where you needed it?
You know, for me, bare knuckle is a great chapter in my life to finish out my career in, and I think it's going to give me what I always wanted. And at the end of the day, when you can get that anywhere, it's just a good thing. Do I wish it had been around a lot sooner? Hell yeah. Do I think about it all the time? Not really, because I mean, there's no point in searching in the past for something that didn't happen. I'm just grateful that it's here now, and I'm grateful that I have an opportunity, and that I didn't get too old, before it came, and it's just it's a fantastic thing. And then you got guys like Shoaff who are coming up, and I get to be a part of that. You know what I mean? And it's like, at the end of the day, age is a terrible thing, man. And ours, my spirit tells me I can fight for 10 more years. You know what I mean? You got 10 more years left. Come on, make a run. But your body lets you know. And being that I'm in the best physical shape that I've ever been in now, at 41. I feel like Tom Brady, man, like the guy that can just keep on going, man. And he's still winning Super Bowls. I'm still in the main event. So at the end of the day, man, we'll know when it's time, but I'm just grateful for the opportunity now, today.
And I think that's the most honest answer I've probably got out of everybody. Because, I mean, that's what it is, The fighting spirit, I don't need to have fought to know what you guys experience, but I'll never understand it fully because I'm not in there. I'm not that person, Fighters like Chuck Liddell who, like, people were like, please stop fighting. Like, please stop. Yeah. And you can't tell a fighter to stop fighting. I know if I told both of you today, hey, you got to stop fighting, you'd probably just jump off the show. Like,
who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
But I love what you said, like you're fighting, the fighting spirit that you have within you. It's telling you, I can still do this, I can still do this. And you brought it up, you're 41, Joe's 38. You're seeing a lot of guys that are a little bit older coming into bare knuckle. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that this is an outlet where you're not having to focus on takedowns. You're not having to focus on kicks. And I feel like it could extend a career instead of stifle it.
The injury rate in bare knuckle is a lot less than MMA. MMA, you got knees, you got ankles, you got arms, you got elbows that take massive damage. I mean, huge. Shoaff, he's young, man. He's coming up, and he had a knee injury. It's just the contorting of the body, everything else that you got to do for MMA is tough. And then also, bare knuckle, we have to preserve our hands. We have to be careful on where we land our punches. We have to be careful on how hard you throw your punches. You throw them all 100 miles per hour, one of them's going to be fouled, and you're going to break a knuckle. And, I've broken the hand in a fight when I fought the Korean Zombie. It's not fun to fight with a broken hand. It's not a good thing. So in bare knuckle, man, you land a good shot, it hurts you too. And it's like, okay, I got to be a little more careful and where I'm placing that one the next time. So the injury rate is going to be significantly less. There's going to be more cuts, like superficial things, a few stitches, and you're good. I mean, you look like Frankenstein for a couple of days, but at the end of the day, especially when you win, you're proud of those. When you lose, you're like, they hurt a little bit more. But at the end of the day, man, it is what it is. And I love that. That's all we have to focus on. And I think the evolution of every sport, like if you watch the UFC in the beginning, Ken Shamrock, Dan Severn, Don Fry, Hoist Gracie, they were all older guys. There wasn't an 18-year-old or 21-year-old phenom in there. Well, Vitor, but
yeah, that was a little bit later. What was that? UFC 13? Like, we were a little bit down the road with that.
Yeah, so I mean, it took some time for them to come, and of course, he came from Brazil where they were doing it all the time, anyways. That's kind of where it originated from. With the whole Hoist Gracie thing. So, but here in the States, I think bare knuckle is an old man sport right now, and these young kids that get in there with the old guys that have the experience are going to take their heads off. You know what I mean? So it's going to be an old man sport for a little while until we get this young kid that comes up with lightning fast hands and lots of power. And to be honest, I'm glad I'm going to be out of the way whenever he comes. I hope me and Tom are training him.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. We're going to be bringing him up.
Yeah. So it's just, man, I love the evolution. I love being a part of it. I don't feel like I started my MMA career in '99, so I wasn't in the big show, But you think about it, I was kind of a pioneer in my area, for it. And then I fought in WEC 1. Got named the face of the WEC. A lot of things that I've been able to do to be able to fight for the #1 spot at 165 from bare knuckle. It's a huge accomplishment and it's a big deal. Every organization I fought for, I challenged for the title. The UFC was the only one that I didn't win it in. Every other organization I became a champion that I competed in. Mm-hmm. That to me means, I understand when I get into something, I want to be the best, and I try my best to do that. And I hope that over the 22 years, people have, enjoyed the show and really liked what I've been able to do because I've enjoyed doing it for the 22 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny that I almost forgot about this. And by almost forgot, I mean, Wikipedia reminded me. I actually saw you fight in 2012. You fought in Hollywood, Florida on the McCall and Johnson card. So that was a war with Matt Grice.
Yeah, and that was a tough fight. I had a really tough weight cut against Matt Grice, and then man, he was a hell of a wrestler.
Yeah.
And he I wrestled the whole camp for that fight, and I was beat up, I was injured, and he just did a number. He just kept taking me down, and I was like, God dang it, man. But we fought all the way through. He sunk some chokes in that should have took me out, man. He had a north-south choke that I don't know how the hell I got out of it. I thought I was out, to be honest with you. And then I'm standing up fighting, and I was like, hell yeah, I'm still in it, So, it was great, man. I love Florida. I kind of wish this fight was going to be there. But, Biloxi, they got a Ruth Chris there that I'm looking forward to. After weigh-ins. So we're going.
All right.
Man, now you got me just wanting to drive to Biloxi.
Yeah, right. You might as well, man. How far is it?
What is it, 9-10 hours? I'm in Florida, so I would have loved this fight in Florida.
We're in Texas, man, so 9-10 hours means nothing to us. You can
that's just on the other side of the state.
In Texas. Yeah. Oh, you're right up the road if you're 9 hours away. You're going to be here tomorrow.
All right, precisely. 8.5 hours, so.
Oh, bro, I'm driving that this week so I can go pick up mats. I got to drive to Georgia this week and Arkansas so I can go pick up mats and cage and a boxing ring.
Jeez.
Yeah, 8 hours is easy, bro.
Shoaff's gym, man, is coming together really nice. He's got some partners out there, and man, like I said, man, as soon as that light bulb turned on, he told me about his gym. I was like, you just watch what's going to happen. With our partnership, man, we're going to bring up some guys. He's still going to be able to teach MMA guys, but his boxing is just going to get better for bare knuckle. My boxing is just going to get better, and we're going to do our best to dominate the divisions and bring some guys up with us, man.
And I love that mentality, because you're not seeing that in other sports. You're not seeing baseball players being like, I'm going to teach this guy to be the next good, great me. I'm not going to, they play on the team, they work well together, this or that. And, you brought up Tom Brady earlier, and I hate talking about Tom Brady, but I live in Tampa, so I can't really say anything. But Tom Brady gets places and makes people better. He's one of the few exceptions to that where you really see him take that leadership role. And I would imagine that after he's done playing, because I think he just signed another 4-year deal.
Yeah, 2 year. Yeah, well, 4-year extension, but they got it for 2 years guaranteed.
And that's
Tom Brady's my favorite player, man. I followed him up from Michigan. Of course, I'm a big Michigan Wolverine fan, and was a Patriot. Still am. I still love the Patriots, man. I really believe with a leader, they'll still learn how to do well because the coaching is still there.
Mm-hmm.
There's some great things that they got there, but Tom Brady is, he is football. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's nothing better than that guy quarterback. So, one of my goals is to meet him one day, man. And if I got to go to Tampa and just camp out like a fan, I'll do it. I don't care.
I'll go with you.
I'll help set it up. I know the area. So
there you go, man.
Too easy.
We'll do a stakeout.
Stay in a nice house.
Yeah, man. He's one of the owners of UFC now.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's with WME.
Yeah. He's one of the owners. I think Cowboys gotten to meet Gronk a couple times, which is also one of my favorites. I was real jealous about that, but he called my little brother on FaceTime and sung happy birthday to him, made my little brother cry. So that was a cool thing. Gronk is a great dude too, man. So it's just as athletes, man, it's real hard to find other guys to look up to. And when you run into a guy like Tom, and you run into a guy like Tom Shoaff in this sport, and you see that leadership, you see that generalship that he has in the ring. And like I said, man, we clicked immediately. Like, even though we were in the same weight division, first time I ever met him, shook his hand, hugged him, and I turned around, looked at my wife. I was like, I like that dude, man. He's a cool dude. We were running into each other after weigh-ins in Biloxi, and he's like, man, we need to get together and train sometime. And I was like, absolutely, man. And when he reached out for this fight, like I said, man, I think God puts you in certain paths and directs you. And when you take those and you make the right decisions, man, I'm so happy that I got to meet Tom Shoaff and that we're cousins now.
Yeah. Listen, and it's like we said before, I said Ancestry.com. It's 21st century. We're all related somehow.
That's right. I could grow the beard, but I think it'd look funny on me. So he gave me a Tom Shoaff comb. With a beard on it. I use it every day, man.
Listen, I just cut mine down. I can't do it. I've tried, man. I've tried so hard. Eddie gave me such shit for it.
Everywhere we went here in Texas. When we were here in my hometown, everybody was like, "Where's the guy with the mustache? Where's the guy with the mustache?" I said, "Oh, that's Tom." They're like, "Hell yeah, he's a cool dude." And it's awesome, man. It's his trademark, and absolutely the best mustache in any sport, I think.
Oh,
somebody better tell Eddie.
All right, I'm calling Eddie right now.
Oh man, that's too good. We had a lot of fun, man. We had a lot of fun in Texas. We've had a lot of fun just doing this whole experience, like we were talking about before. Like us having the little chance encounters that we had in the past that kind of gave us the opportunity to build the relationship that we have now. Both being like-minded individuals, both wanting to be the best that we can possibly be in our divisions, and both having the drive to want to help people. I think that's one of the biggest things that we'll say separates the wheat from the chaff. Is when you are in a position when you're in a position of power, we'll say, and you have the power to empower others, and you don't. You're kind of a shitty person, like there's no need to be that selfish, so I'm in a position where it's like, I've got knowledge, I've got information, I've got power, so to speak, that I can hand off to other people and help them grow and build and have somewhat of the same success that I've had, or if not more success than I've had. Leonard's in the same position, you know, and when you get communities like that, when you get people like that who are really, they want to be great, and in being great, they want to see others be great. Like it just, you can't help but have good things come out of that. And that was probably the biggest takeaway that Leonard and I had from this whole coming together was not only is the potential and the reality of skill and ability and learning there, but the potential and the reality of sharing and no sort of weirdness about it. You know, it was awesome. It was a great experience that we got to share together. And like he said, we're cousins now, man. Like we're family. It's official. We're locked here.
The story continues.
Precisely. And we're looking forward to building up that next generation, man. You know, like you guys were touching on earlier, this really is the UFC 1 days, you know, and for Leonard to see the WEC through, to see the UFC through, and to now build, you know, the BKFC, and to see that build through and to build up another generation of people, the next generation of people, you know, like that's a story in itself. Yeah. For us to be able to do it together and to build the next generation together, like it's a great next chapter. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me and so am I, man. It's going to be, like I said, I mean, all good things, and I've spoken before. You know, it takes an opponent like Elmore to bring these types of situations out. You know, just great job, bare knuckle. You know what I mean? Getting the right guys, doing the right things. You know, you hear guys say, you know, in the beginning, this was a sport where fighters went to die.
Yeah.
You know, I bet you that was a good friend of mine that said that, and I bet you he eats his words in a few years and is maybe asking for a contract. You know, and you know, that's something that Cowboy will have to think about in the future. You know, when you talk about something that you have no knowledge of, it's tough. You know what I mean? It's tough to speak about something that you have no experience in. There's a saying, you know, you can't argue a man with experience because he's experienced that. He's been through it. I honestly feel like there's a lot of good that comes from these new sports coming up. I think bare knuckle hit it right on the head, man. Dave Feldman is a genius. You know, he put this thing together. He made it happen. I think he posted the other day where Dana White was like, "Yeah, that'll never work." Yeah, I'm sure Dana heard that about the UFC several times. Character is what you do when people aren't looking. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, me and Tom have great character. You know, I feel like there's very few guys out there that carry that moniker, and you know, be true to what it is that you're doing, do the right things, and work hard, and good things will happen, man. If you know, we're judgmental because we're human, you know, and even there, I kind of threw a slug at my buddy. But at the end of the day, I'm just trying to point out, man, this is a great sport. It's a great thing that's happening, and it's the very beginning of it, man. It's about to explode. So to be a part of that now, like I said, man, couldn't ask for anything better.
And I'll be the first one to say, like, when it came around, I was not a fan because it was the lack of understanding, and I think that's exactly what it is. You know, I first got into MMA, you know, Tom and I have talked about this, it's been on the show before, but like the WEC was my introduction to MMA. Okay. So guys like you, guys like Eddie, guys like Faber and Brown, like those were the guys I was watching and going, it was a WEC wreckage. And I only remember two of the fights. It was Faber Brown 2 and Aldo and Swanson. And I just remember going, I need to watch more. And a buddy of mine, my buddy Nick, I bring him up. He was on the show before. We would go to his house and watch Pride for like 6 hours at a time. And we watch a fight and he'd be like, no, this fight's whack. No, don't watch this one. Okay, no, watch this one. You know, watching guys like Igor Varchenchkin and Enson Inoue, and you're like, holy shit, like, this is
Yeah.
crazy. So I think, for somebody who didn't start watching MMA until, we're talking 13 years ago, it took a while for me to appreciate it. Now that I actually train jiu-jitsu, I'm still going after Tom if we can ever fight in the same weight class.
Let's get it, bro. Anytime you want it, you can come get that smoke.
This 2-stripe blue belt is not
Come and get it. Come and get it.
But it took an understanding of bare knuckle and the people behind it, the idea behind the sport. And in this moment, as I'm explaining this, I realized that people who watch MMA aren't always MMA fans. They want to see a fight. They don't necessarily understand why they're going for this takedown, why they're on the ground. Crowd starts booing. I've been to 3 bare knuckle events, and I think one fight got booed. And it was, surprisingly, it was at Knuckle Mania. It was the Lorenzo Hunt fight. And Lorenzo's known for knocking people out, and the crowd was booing,
Lorenzo
and I'm going,
Rob Morrow.
and I'm like, shut up. I'm like, this is what you wanted. This is exactly what you want. And I'm watching these guys, and we always tell the funny story that I was at one of Lorenzo's pro fights when he was fighting MMA, and he hit a dude with like an overhand, and the lights went out in the arena. And we always joke that he hit him so hard that the lights went out everywhere.
The lights went out everywhere. Yeah,
Man,
that's a hell of a story.
Well, it happened. It happened last night.
That would happen to Lorenzo. Did you guys see that video on Instagram of him pushing that car?
Yeah.
It's like lifting the truck off the ledge. Like, bro, what are you doing? Like, he's got a weight vest on. Like that, the car's not heavy enough. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And
that dude's a monster, man. That he's that shoot. And that even that fight, that guy had a really smart approach to Lorenzo. He was like, I'm gonna stay away.
Yeah.
Stay away. Hit him
Try to
with
counter.
punches.
Yeah.
And Lorenzo just turned it on and was like, you ain't getting away from this. And he came on strong and did what Lorenzo does. Push that car up the mountain, you know what I mean?
Literally.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It like I said, man, there's these athletes out there that people know nothing about, and they're about to see it, man. So it's a great thing, man. I'm like I said, I'm just excited to be part of it. Man, it feels good. It really does feel good. And I'm fighting a monster, and I'm excited for it. And one day I hope guys look back and be like, man, Felix Tito Trinidad was my favorite boxer back in the 90s. And he was a skinnier built guy, had a good build, but man, he'd go out there and that left hook would just knock everybody out. And I would watch him, and he would get dropped, stand back up, and be like, all right, I'm good. And it's just it's cool to remember guys like that, and I hope in the future people will remember, like, man, Leonard looked a little skinny. Well, not in my last 2 fights. They were like, yeah, he looked flabby. That again, that was the years off and everything else. This time you guys are going to see me in great form. I feel fantastic, and for Tom Shoaff to tell you you're in stellar shape, that means you're in great shape, man. And like I said, I know Joe's training hard, and I think he's going to come in looking good. So, guys, get excited, man. It's a hell of a main event. It's a hell of a way to end the card.
And I love that you're promoting yourself, but at no point, you talked about, you're going to get the win. You see that the way the fight. But you're not underestimating Elmore in any sense. You're not saying, well, I'm, because you guys have about the same amount of MMA fights. You've got a lot of experience. People may not know who he is until he started fighting in bare knuckle. And it's kind of like, with what you said with Jim, where you're like, well, I didn't know who he was. Some people don't know. And I feel like having Tom be able to tell you, like, this is how hard it hit. Like, this is how this felt. So, but at the same time, like you said, that he's not going to teach you anything you don't already know.
Well, Tom can't take the punch for me.
Yeah.
So, I always tell people this. I always say it. The story of a fight is always going to work out. How do you react when he hits you? and how does he react when you hit him? Because you see that.
Yeah.
He's going to see my reaction, not because of my face, or I'm going to say, ow, that hurt. But he's going to see how my body reacts, and I'm going to see how his body reacts, and I'm going to say, okay, put a little more on it, or you know, be smarter where you land, or this, that. And I mean, he doesn't care. Like, the dude he's trying to punch through a wall. You know what I mean? And I've got to be a wall that he can't punch through. So, you know, that it's just, fighting is such a great thing, man. It's so beautiful. Just, you know, it's the ultimate test. You know, they call it chess, checkers, whatever it is, but it's a game of inches. It's a game of millimeters. It's like if Jim had punched me, you know, a couple millimeters up, he would have caught my eye bone and everything would have been good. I'd have had a big knot and, you know, maybe, you know, whatever. But because he hit me directly in the eyeball, it changed everything. So it's a game of centimeters, game of inches, and it's just it's the funnest thing in the world. Like, if I could bottle that chaos when you're in there and you're moving your head, you're throwing punches and punch misses, and you got to counter, and you're worried about this shot, or you get hit with the shot that you don't see. It's just like, so everything, every emotion is going through you at that moment. If I could find a way to find that feeling and bottle it, we'd be billionaires. Once a person feels that, they'll never feel as alive again. That's when you feel the most alive. And maybe that's why I do what I do, you know?
Well,
yeah, no, I have to agree with that wholeheartedly, man. I think that I think if I could summarize it in a very similar but metaphorically different manner, it's the most intense drug you're ever gonna take. It's the same reasons why heroin addicts get so close to death before they come down. It's the same reason why alcoholics drink until they're so close to blacking out they come down. It's like the closest you get to death, the closer you get to death, you never feel more alive. And when you are in a situation where you are literally fighting for your life, in a sense, like you're fighting for your livelihood, you're fighting for your girlfriend, for your wife, for your kids, for your future, you know, and all of that is at stake and on the line, and you go out there and you win. You do what you need to do. That elation, that rush after 5 rounds, and then the victory is yours, that security that I just busted my ass for however long, went out and fought my ass off and won. That feeling, that if you could bottle that and sell it, we would be billionaires. There's no doubt about it. There's no feeling like it.
All right, I'll get right on it, guys.
I'm getting shit talking about it, man. Like, there's no feeling like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And fighting's a beautiful thing, man. It's the most raw and pure and animalistic I think we have in the 21st century, plain and simple. Like, it's as close as we're gonna get to full-on gladiators in the American world, or the Western world, we'll say. Yeah, like it's a beautiful thing.
And I'll tell you this, Leonard, just because Tom loves it when I tell this story. I've thrown 2 punches in my life.
Okay.
The first one missed.
Second one.
The second one, it was like 10th grade. The girl I was dating had just dumped me. Dude on the bus just kept making fun of me. He just kept going at it. And I walked up to him, and I went, and my hand opened before it hit him in the face.
Okay.
And I looked at my hand, and I said, I guess you're not worth it. And I just sat down like a psychopath. Like,
Okay.
let's go.
Oh.
So I don't know what that feels like.
So the man, it brought
See how blown away he is right now?
it brought the fight.
I made him speechless.
What did he do?
He just looked at me like wide-eyed, like. And then I sat down, and like his friends pulled him away and like kept us separate because we had to ride the bus home.
Yeah.
Like, but that's the only time like I felt like. And then the closest thing I have for it is jiu-jitsu. It's that moment where you're in a position that you've been stuck in 1,000 times and you get out of it. And you go, or you sweep a higher belt. And I'm like, that to me is that moment of elation where you're like, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I guess it's a lot different. Tom, we were talking about this before you got on, like when people try to fist bump you after a fight.
Dude, that's all it takes me every time, man. I'm always like high-fiving people. Like, I will scissors your rock all day, or I should say paper your rock all day. Yeah. Like,
but that's how we met. Like, that was me, watching people try to fist bump you and Julian. I walked over and I was like, hey, man, isn't it kind of crazy everybody's fist bumping you? And you looked at me like, yeah, it really is.
People just don't get it, man. Low flying planes.
That's exactly. I don't know, man.
I love the passion. Like, I have goosebumps listening to you guys talk about bottling that emotion, because you're right. That is a feeling that very few people are going to experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and I mean, and I guess in a sense, if you want to get, metaphorical, people do experience it, just in a very different sense. Like you said, you experience it with jiu-jitsu. Some people might experience it with a project they have at work. They're an architect and they're putting a building together, or they're a manager somewhere and they're putting a project together with a team, and then like seeing all of their hard work and all of that develop and progress, and then the outcome is good. It's that sense of elation. People do experience that, I feel, in their everyday life, but I don't think they experience it enough.
No, I guess. Well, the building doesn't hit back, so.
Yeah, it's just like like we experience it every day. Like you go to the jiu-jitsu gym and you're rolling and you're trying and trying and trying, and then bang, you hit that sweep, or like you get out of that position, or whatever the case may be, or we go and we're striking and we're working on a certain counter that we've been working on for a couple of days, and then boom, it just clicks. Like we experience those highs on almost a weekly basis. Yeah. A lot of people don't get that. A lot of people don't experience those highs in like a day-to-day life or a day-to-day job, So like we get those senses of elation all the time. So if we could bottle that and sell it to somebody working behind a counter, like I'm sure they would appreciate that.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, this has been. Oh, go ahead, Leonard. He's got more. He's got more.
I'm saying, people. I believe that's what will change. Society in general, man. Is that when you find a passion, when you go for it, like I found this passion, and I went for it. But with anything, you know what I mean? Like I definitely try to chase that with everything. I try to be the best at whatever it is that I do. I work as a manager for an automation company with oil and gas, and I try to be the best manager that I can be. Whenever the time's up, and it's like, man, if you're a clerk, be the best clerk you can be. If you're a sacker, I tell my son all the time, he works for Hibbett Sports. He's a salesman. I was like, dude, go in there and knock your socks off. Sell socks to everybody. Sell shoes. Be the best at what you do. Yeah. And at the end of the day, they can find that. They can find that exhilaration. They can find that feeling, and that's what it is, man. That's all it is. Hard work paying off. That feeling that we get when we're in there fighting, we had to work hard to get to that position. Mm-hmm. To be the main event, you have to work hard. And I have an opportunity to go show people what it is that I'm doing, and it's exhilarating. So do that, everybody. You know what I mean? Find it. You talk about guys that have the regular 9 to 5, and man, go out and set a goal, man. Set a goal for yourself that day. Make it happen. You got jiu-jitsu, you got different things. You got different avenues to find victories in anything, man. Go find those victories, man.
Absolutely. And, I mean, that's the best way to sum it up. But I love what you said. Just do your best. Knock their socks off. Whether it's selling socks or knocking people out. Like, go out there and excite people. And that's why I'm really excited for this fight on Friday. Because, like you said, this isn't just like, oh, we got a UFC guy. He's coming in here. This is somebody who loves what they're doing, who's taken extra precautions and extra steps to make himself the best version that people will see. And I usually hate when they use those cliches, oh, this is the best version of me, because just once I want somebody to be like, I'm gonna suck this fight. Like, I'm not ready. Like,
I'm not ready. Whatever happens. I'm just gonna go out there and give it hell.
The first punch gets thrown. Time out.
Yeah, hold on. Whoa. And we've seen that a couple of times, man. I've thrown my fair share of shit fits on the show when people take a counter hook or a check hook and they drop. I'm like, yo, this is what you're doing, man. You're fighting. You're supposed to get punched in the face. What the hell?
Get up.
I'm going to take
a little more honest.
Yeah. Well, on behalf of myself, Combat Press, let's see. We've got Tom, I do this every time. Fat Boy Jiu-Jitsu, Berto's Bake Shop, and La Barba Cubana, keeping my beard in check. Combat Press for letting me do this. Tom, thank you so much for setting this up with Leonard. Like I said, this was an absolute honor, and really, people are going to be excited when they watch this fight on Friday. You know, I haven't seen a boring bare knuckle fight yet, and I don't remember the last time I saw you in a boring fight, period. So let's be honest here. So thank you both, gentlemen. It was great, and we definitely need to talk soon. And you dropped something I want to talk to you about after the show, so don't go anywhere, Leonard. Thanks, guys.
Too easy.
All right, buddy.